Today we're going to look at electronic music, and if we read it, we will see that it originated in Germany in the 1950s. It includes any sounds picked up by a microphone, as in Musik Concrete that we did last time, and also any sounds produced from electronic sound generators. The basic sound producing component is an oscillator. Sounds produced may be as pure, meaning free from harmonics or overtones, or as impure as required. Another kind of sound is white noise, a rushing sound made up of all audible frequencies. We heard this sound also in Musik Concrete. Sounds may be electronically modified in various ways, including adjustments of volume, filtering. So I cut out all the unwanted frequencies, or adding vibrato, the wavering, reverberations, delay added to the sound dies away gradually, or echo, the sound is repeated as it dies away. So they play around with the effect that they want. Sounds may be mixed together, superimposed, or chopped into separate fragments. So it's like copy and paste. So I can take out things, I can superimpose it, I can put it together, record it, different spots, and then play it together. Individual sounds may be recorded onto separate pieces of tape, which are then spliced together, or a tape loop may be made so sounds can be repeated to create an ostinato effect. So they can have a specific thing and they play it over and over and over to get that ostinato effect. And of course, the basic technique of Musik Concrete plays an important part, such as reversing sound, often producing a crescendo ending with abrupt cut-off, and alternating the pitch. Though by electronic means the pitch may change gradually with a glissando effect. We know the word glissando, it glides. The attack and or decay of sounds may be deleted by tape editing. So I can play around with my control board so that I have exactly what I want as a composer. An electronic composition may consist solely of electronically generated sounds, either pre-recorded on tape or manipulated live before an audience, or a composer may choose to combine the sounds with voices or instruments sounding naturally or transformed by electronic means, live or on tape. One of the most important composers to explore electronic music is Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, German. His electronic works include Kontakte for electronic sounds, piano and percussion, Telemusik, Microphony, one for tam-tam, 2 microphones, 2 filters, and 2 potentiometers, and Gesang der Jüngling, Song of the Youths, in which a boy's voice is combined with electronic sounds. Works by other composers include Visage for Tape, based on the voice of Kathy Berberin, and electronic sounds by Luciano Berio, so I say another composer there, and Como una ola de fuerza y luz, like a wave of force and light, by Luigi Nono. In this atmospheric work, a soprano, piano, and orchestra performs live in combination with a tape previously recorded, presenting the electronically modified sounds of the soprano, piano, and a choir of female voices. So that's quite interesting how they incorporate electronic things that I can produce in a studio beforehand with a live band or live orchestra or with instruments that we know. Now, total serialism, we have looked at serialism where we said that we divide the scale into 12, and then I don't repeat any of those notes until I've used all the notes in the row. Now, total serialism, in 1949, Messiaen, we know that the composer that composed a lot of pieces for birds, composed a piano piece called Mode de Valeur et Intensité, mode of durations and intensities, which he based upon scales, not only of pitch, but also of duration, the note values, dynamics, and attacks. This led to experiments by Messiaen and his two pupils, Boulez and Stockhausen. So we see Stockhausen, the German, was a student of Messiaen, okay, in total serialism, in which 12-element series of pitches, durations, dynamics, and attacks were all totally controlled by Schoenberg's principles of serialism. So every note with a pitch has a duration and a dynamic, and that dynamic is not repeated until I've used all 12 notes. Boulez was first to use total serialism in his Structures 1 for 2 pianos. Stockhausen later came to believe that any aspect of sound could be controlled by serial procedures. His Gruppen, groups, uses a scale of 12 tempos and is played by 3 orchestras, widely separated in performance, each with its own conductor. So that's quite interesting. Okay, now let's look at chance music, aleatory. Whereas total serialism and electronic music offer the composer greater control, aleatory music, from the Latin alia, a dice, makes for greater freedom by involving a degree of chance or unpredictability, either in the composing process, in performance, or in both. So it's like throwing a dice. You never know what parts I will perform today, or what my part will be, or what we will put together. The composer may take decisions about which notes to use and how to use them by throwing a dice. The performer may be required to choose between several alternatives, such as which note or section of the music he will play, and in which order. So they will decide before the time. So if I have a section A, or a section B, and a section C, and a section D, by a throw of a dice, I will see then today that I play section D first, then A, then C, I skip B, and I play D again. And that's now an example. And every time, of course, the music changes. The pitch of notes may be indicated, but not their duration, or vice versa. So they can just give me a row of notes, okay, without any note values. He may be asked to provide some notes of his own choice by improvising. So that's quite interesting. So there can be bars that's open, and in that time for 12 bars or 16 bars, he must make up his own music. In some pieces, no notes may be provided at all, merely a collection of symbols, a diagram, a drawing, or just an idea to be freely interpreted. So they can draw a triangle and say, play this triangle. Cage and Stockhausen have made much use of aleatory procedures in their music. Cage's imaginary landscape number 4 is for 12 radios, all tuned to different stations. Each radio has 2 players, one to adjust the tuning, one to control the volume. So 12 radios, 24 performers, because I have 2 performers on a radio. So the one adjusts the volume and the other one adjusts the tuning. So I can have 12 Namibian radio stations, and everybody controls their own device. His concert for piano and orchestra may be performed as a solo, ensemble piece, symphony, aria with soprano, or piano concerto. Each player chooses in any order any number of pages from his part. Coordination is by elapsed time, the conductor imitating with his arms the hands of a clock. So that's very interesting. So I can, if I have 36 pages in my score, I can decide I want to play page 1 36 times, or I can play the whole thing, or I can start from the back. So every time the composition will be different. Stockhausen's piano piece number 11 consists of 19 sections to be played in any order. So the piano player decides exactly how he wants to play this. The pianist must also choose from 6 different tempi, dynamics, and varieties of touch, staccato, legato, and so on. So you give a lot of freedom to the performer. It's like a library. I give all the material, but the performer decides how they want to do that. Okay. In his Zeclo cycle for percussion, the single performer may begin on any page of the score, which is spirally bounded and may be read clockwise, but can be read anti-clockwise or even upside down. The player then follows the pages in order, ending with the first stroke of the page where he began. Stockhausen has taken aleatory music to the extreme in what she called intuitive music. In May of 1968, he shut himself away for 7 days, eating nothing but meditating deeply. From this came Aus dem 7 Tagen composition, May 1968. Here is an extract. Okay. So this is the poem Arrival. Give up everything. We were on the wrong track. Begin with yourself. You are a musician. You can transform all the vibrations of the world into sounds. If you firmly believe this, and from now on never doubt it, begin with the simplest exercise. Become quite still until you no longer think, want, feel anything. Sense your soul a little below your chest. Let its radiance slowly permeate your whole body, both upward and downward at the same time. Open your head on top in the center, a little towards the back, and let the current that hovers above you there, like a dense sphere, enter into you. Let the current slowly fill you from head to foot and continue flowing. Quietly take your instrument and play. At first single sounds, let the current flow through the whole instrument. You will then experience everything on your own. So what we see here with modern music here, the parts that we have done in this lesson, electronic music, is that it started in the 1950s. That is, some of your grandmother's generation will remember that. So this is not as far as Mozart or Bach. And they used the freedom with Western instruments. So they have the freedom now of using electronic devices and mixing them so that the performer shines every time. Then we have total serialism for today. We have done serialism. Now it becomes total in the fact that I also control my volume and my note durations. Okay? This chance music, aleatory, is very interesting because the performer can then decide exactly, or the whole orchestra decides how we're going to play this. So the audience, they never hear the piece the same as the last time. Even if they go to a concert every night of the same word for a week, they will never hear it twice that it's performed the same. It will only be if you record it and you buy a CD that you will have one specific composition of that. Now, this poem is also quite interesting for me because you can also decide whether you want to compose something like this with different sections for your second composition, and take this poem and work on that. And with this, we finish with modern music. So I think we experienced a lot of different things in modern music. Some wanted to stay in the traditional way of composing, but we saw that exploring and experimenting and the extremes were quite important.